I was like, no, this is it. This is what I meant to go do. And this is what I'm doing. I have no back. This is it. I have kids to support and a family to support. I have to do it. There's no turning back. And I think if I would have had a plan B, this that we're doing right now wouldn't happen.
You burn your ships, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost came from like a fight or flight.
Thank you for joining us on the Evolve Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Oli Merkees. Just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Shane, Steven, and the whole team at Icon Industries. We're so grateful. We get to do great things, tell people stories, really get their brand out there, and we couldn't do it without you. Without further ado, I'm so excited. I have Jason and Jen Arsenault.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
That's right.
Oh, snap. See what happens when you do your homework? Welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, right off the bat, I just want to say that I wouldn't be where I am without this woman. She's amazing.
You want to start crying this early, honey?
Well, hey,
no,
I want to get this out while I'm still got, calmness a little bit, right?
Here you go.
I gotta make sure she knows.
We're good.
We were talking about you got me.
There you go.
Hey Jason, you know what? That's incredible. And when I see people like you and Jenna, and you see the connection, you see the laughter, you see the joy that you capture and put out on media, it's like it's sincere and authentic. Because when you meet you in person, it's like you're exactly who you are on social media.
Good.
So like kudos to you for being real. Yeah. Like I think that gives people the real opportunity to connect with you, and you're doing such cool shit. Yeah. Wait until you hear what they're doing. Yeah. I'm freaking excited. You're going to be excited too. Okay. So let's talk about like your story before we talk about what you do, because I think like I'm such a huge like dog fanatic. I'm so excited to build up. So before we talk about what you do and what your passion is, let's talk about you.
Sure.
So, Jason.
Yeah.
You go first. You already threw some love to Jenna.
Yeah.
I did.
Now let's talk about you.
All right. So, I guess my story, like I used to be a police officer. So I was a police officer for about 15 years. My dad was a police officer, so I kind of grew up around that. I grew up around dogs because he did some training with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So he was doing what was called the imprinting program for the dogs. So we would always have potential police dogs at our house and doing training. So I would always, jump in and help him. Like I was, 7 years old. I had no idea what I was doing, but he told me to go hide and, I'd go play hide and go seek with these dogs. Right. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I would just watch him training in the backyard. And I thought, that was a pretty cool thing to do. And then, from growing up, I wanted to be a police officer. Right.
How come?
My dad was, so I thought that was a great way that I could help people because that was the thing, right? I know it sounds cliche for a lot of people to get into the police force. It's like, oh, I want to help people. And, but that was my motivation for it, was what my dad did, what I saw him doing. And I wanted to continue on doing that, right? So I eventually got into the police force, a municipal force in Saskatchewan, Canada. So it was Estevan Police Service. I spent a couple of years there. Then I moved to a larger center in Saskatoon. So I wasn't never on the Canine unit. There was a couple times I was very close, but there was one time it was a political issue, and I don't want to go into that here because they'll just extend it, and it's never really make a lot of sense. But I did work with the dogs, so I helped them train. I was a decoy, so I put on the bite sleeve and do that kind of stuff, and then
sweet,
yeah.
Sounds fun.
It was pretty fun.
We can hook you up if you want.
Yeah,
I'm in. Hey,
are you?
You know what? That would be great content. I'm in. I'll be your guinea pig.
Yeah,
cool. Sounds good. We'll put you in a whole suit and everything.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
All right.
Sorry. Continue.
No, that's fine. So yeah, I was there for a number of years, and in 2008. I went to a call that kind of changed my whole life trajectory, right? It put me, it's kind of a little bit difficult for me to talk about still. I ended up getting post-traumatic stress from it. I was advised not to go back to policing. So here I was a number of years later with no support from my police agency. I had been denied workers' compensation a number of times and had to go through appeal processes. And then, long story short, for that part, I was let go by my police department because they offered me a position that wasn't in my scope of duties that I was allowed to do for medical reasons, and I denied it. So they said, okay, even though they told me they would just keep me on as an inactive employee until I got my appeal sorted out and everything like that, they just surprised me with a letter saying goodbye. So
this is after 15 years?
Yeah, this is 15 years.
And how did that make you feel?
That there's a thing. It's like almost like another trauma, right? It's almost worse than the regular, what happened, the incident that happened, because these are people that are supposed to have your back, right? You spend all this time training, everything. You lean on parts of the police service, like they have critical incident stress teams where they help you through these things, which was, another thing that I was, they kind of failed me at that too. I tried to contact them a number of times. They kind of just blew me off. I never heard from anybody. So I feel like I was just kind of, their back was turned to me. Right? Abandoned. I was abandoned, right? So it was tough. Like there's a lot of times where it was rough. Like I don't want to go into too much detail because I'll start to cry probably if I do that, because there's still so much emotion behind that, even though I've moved past it and I'm looking forward and I'm trying to look at it in a different light. But it's still like, there was times I'd sit there at home when I was, after the incident happened, when I wasn't getting any help, wasn't getting anything. I'd sit there, I'd bring my gun home from work, and it would be on the table and I'd drink a 40. Right. And just sit there and like, is this tonight going to be the night that it happens? And then there was one night I made a phone call to a friend, and that kind of changed how I looked at things. And I didn't have that in my mind anymore. She kind of helped me through, different ways. I had a son at the time too. So
how's your son?
He's 18 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
are you comfortable talking about, like, what was that call like?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Like I said, I'll probably end up shedding some tears, but so the call, it was, I don't know, probably about 11 PM one night. And we got this call over the radio that there was a baby not breathing. So it just so happened we were like 3 houses away from this, right? And usually we support paramedics and stuff like that for, just in case it's a crime scene or whatever, right? But we were there. We were the first ones on the scene. So, of course, we're going to go in and do what we can. So my partner and I rushed in. I was the first one in. And it was a basement suite. So we go down the stairs and we open the door. And I think this is the part that kind of got me for the most part. It was like, I saw the father with the baby in his hands, and what he said to me when I first came down the stairs was, "Please save my daughter." So I was like, okay. So I just jumped into action. I wasn't even thinking, right? Grabbed the child, pink onesie, probably about 6 months old. 3 months old. She was only 3 months old. So we put her on the floor, started doing CPR. I don't even know how long I did it for. I do remember my partner trying to tap me out, like, let me go for a while. I was like, no, I got this. Because you start, I don't know if you've ever done CPR on somebody. Like I've done CPR on adults and car accidents. I've seen like a lot of that kind of stuff. But this time there was like, I don't know if it was because the child was so small or whatever, but there'd be like these gasps, right? And you'd almost think that she's gonna come back, right? So I'm pushing and pushing, I'm trying to go, and then next thing you know, the paramedics are pulling me off, and then the paramedics and fire are there, so they're gonna take over, right? So we had to follow the ambulance and go with them to the hospital. because of, continuity and crime scene, all that kind of stuff. Right. So, we went to the hospital, and it was weird because there was no emotion really during that, because it was just something that needed to be done. It was just, you do it. And it didn't really affect me then. And then we went to the hospital, and we waited, and she was pronounced dead just after midnight. So, and then, like I said, there was nothing. It was just another call, right? So, okay, all right, lunchtime, go for lunch, off to lunch before the next one hits, right? So my partner and I just had lunch. We didn't even talk about it, nothing. And then that was our last shift before we went off duty for 4, because we worked a 4 on 4 off split. So I was off work. And then, when I got home, I was kind of going through a divorce at the time. My first wife, I have my child, he was, I think he was like 3 at the time. So I was already in a bad place. And for people that kind of understand, we kind of look at this when we're training dogs too, like the dopamine leads to positive long-term memory. So when the dopamine levels are low, when the dogs are kind of in a, let's say, depressed state, the dopamine levels are low. So they can get that post-traumatic stress as well from different situations. So it's important that you have to keep the dog's dopamine levels high. Mm-hmm. So same with people, right? If our dopamine levels are low, we're more susceptible. There's been studies showing that we're more susceptible to these events, or the depression sort of thing, right? So I was already in a low place, and my 4 days off, I thought about it a lot. It bothered me. So when I went back to work, I tried to contact my critical incident stress team, called them, no answer, left messages, no answer, message, like Post-it notes. I'd go into their office, Post-it note on the desk, nothing. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm just being a pussy. That whole cop mentality thing, right? This is what we signed up to do, so suck it up, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm just being a baby about it. It's nothing. It's not that big of a deal. Whatever. Move forward. Move on. So this went on, like I said, this was in 2008. And then by 2013, I could see my career starting to go on a downward, right? Because I was starting to not care that much. I'd maybe get a little bit extra rough with, the criminals and stuff like that, or when we apprehended people. I wouldn't beat anybody or anything, but a little extra, give them a little extra push on the pressure point, or, some little bit pain compliance. And I hated my job. I hated it. I didn't want to be there. I didn't like anybody. I was hard to talk to. And then I realized that it was time to go when I would be sitting in my patrol car, and I would just break down, start crying in the middle of traffic. I was sitting at a red light, and everything would just come, right? So that was kind of when I knew when I needed to talk to somebody. So I found somebody to talk to, and they advised me not to go back to work. So that's when it all started. I said I couldn't go back to work. I needed to be on stress leave. I got a letter, whatever, made a claim with our workers' compensation, and then they denied my claim because it wasn't a physical injury. My arm wasn't broken, or, I didn't have I didn't fall off a ladder. Right. So, so I had to appeal that. I stayed off work. I was, my work was paying me sick leave, which wasn't a full wage. Right. And then, every time that they would deny me, I would just reappeal it. And finally they accepted my claim. And then, so this is the part where it kind of ties into the, where my next steps went, right? I was like, okay, screw this. After a few years, I was off work for nearly 5 years. And I was getting stir crazy because I'm not the type of person to just sit around. And I wasn't allowed to. WCB wouldn't let me work. They wouldn't let me work, wouldn't let me go to school until everything was solved, and then they were in control. So I was like, screw this. I can't do this anymore. nobody's coming to save me, right? I got to save myself. Like I am the steward of my own person, right? So I have to make sure that I'm going to be where I need to be. I can't, like, it's just going to get worse. So I made the decision I want to be a dog trainer. Like I look back on my, past, and I'm like, hey, I've trained dogs before personally, and I can do this. This can be something I can do. So I did my research. I looked at a few dog trainer companies, and I found one in North Carolina, and that was one that, because I was on WCB, that was one that I could leave if I needed to, and then come back and restart the program. So that was one I chose to do. I told WCB about this. I said, okay, look, I found this program. It's in North Carolina. Will you help me pay for it? Oh, we'll look into it. And then they came back with no. They won't help me pay for it because it's out of country. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do it. So I took out a loan, and which wasn't probably the smartest thing to do, but maybe it was, because who knows? But I wasn't I didn't have full salary. So I took out this loan and paid for it myself. And I thought, if they call me back, I'll come back, deal with whatever they need me to do. And I told her that. I said, my worker, I said, this is what's happening. I'm paying for the course myself. I can come back when needed. It's not a huge deal. We'll get this sorted. So, yeah, no problem. All good. So I let them know about, 2-3 months before my course. So about 4 days before my course, I hadn't heard anything before. And then all of a sudden, hey, we got a job for you. We got an interview set up for you. I'm like, oh, okay. What is it? Well, it's bylaw enforcement. I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked at the job duties. I looked at my job restrictions. I'm like, well, there's about 6 of these job duties that I'm not supposed to do due to mental health reasons and my doctor. And so I said, I'm going to check with my psychologist. So I sent it away, and he says, yeah, that's WCB. Like this is restrictions from the WCB themselves telling me that these are one I shouldn't be doing. Their doctor. So they said, okay, well, if you don't take this position, then you're not compliant with WCB, and we're going to cut you off. So I made the decision, and this was, now keep in mind, this took about 4 days to do, and I'm already on my way to North Carolina by this time. So I'm like, I'm not going to the interview. So that Monday when the interview was scheduled, I called the guy. I'm like, look, I'm sorry, they booked it. They weren't supposed to. I'm not coming. So I'm sorry. So I got to North Carolina. WCB had contacted me and said, yeah, you didn't go to your interview, so we're cutting you off. So I was with a girl at the time, and I had a newborn. He was 6 months old. So we had a trailer, and we were hauling a trailer down there. So we were going to go live in an RV for 6 months. This course was 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's on maternity leave, and now all of a sudden, boom, I'm cut off from any kind of payments. So we're kind of just living off of her income. And then I called the police service right away, Human Resources, and I said, well, what's going to happen? I'm going to appeal this decision because it's all plain sight, right? That I'm not supposed to. This isn't a position I should be taking. And they're like, yeah, we'll just put you on inactive duty. You're fine. We'll keep you on as employed. Unfortunately, we're not going to pay you, but you're going to be on. You can still have a job when you come back when this is all sorted. Cool. Okay, this was in October. I'm going through the course. Everything's fine. No thoughts. Okay, I'll get this dealt with. Whatever. After my appeal comes through, and then February 18th, I got a letter from my police service saying that we're terminating your employment. I'm like, okay, well, that was awesome. So now what do I do, right? So now my course is almost done. I'm going back home. I have no job to go back to. And now I'm like, okay, I really got to make this dog training thing work, right? And I'm in a huge panic on what to do. And so that's how the original company started was, I got back, I named it Arsenault Canine, and that's where I started. That's my long-winded origin story. And I'm pretty impressed with myself. I didn't cry as much as the last time.
You did good. Yeah. Look at, he's speechless too. I think that's the second time.
I think for like the first question I have is, what were you thinking when you got no support to a department that you'd given so much of your life and commitment to? I mean, I was just trying to put myself in your shoes and just think about like you just, when you needed them the most, like there was no one there.
Well, it was a realization for me that kind of I'm just a number to them. There was no personal nothing. They don't care. They don't care. So I think that's kind of where I realized that the only person that's going to care as much as me is me. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was hard because they put on this big show in the police service, like, well, we're a brotherhood and we have your back. And, the amount of like stuff I heard about me from other people, from other police officers, it was sad. Like, and I don't know. I don't really want to talk about that because it's people told me these things, but I believe that it happened because I was there when I was working and I heard it about other people.
Right.
So you kind of wonder, what's real, right?
Well, and for me to play off that too is, it's also, which we can get into a little bit later, but is why we prioritize culture in our company so much, because it's like he said, I felt like a number. I've had positions where I felt like a number, and it's like, no, I think you can build a business and it feel like maybe more of a family, but in the sense of like, I think everyone's like, oh, you're my family, but like, are you really their family? Like, it's not really like that, but like truly like understanding like all the individuals that work with us and like their needs, their wants, their goals, and, helping build that while also building like a whole organization with it. Right. So like a lot of those things that we've learned have helped us develop our culture in the business too. Right. So
I think when we spoke, it's interesting how we all connected this past week. Mm-hmm. That was the thing about your story that blew me away. And these are the stories I want to share with people, because you could have easily gone the other direction, Jason, and it could have been a negative. Yeah. So I think it's that thought process that we all struggle. And I was very uncomfortable. Like I wasn't a good guy. I got to be honest. Like there were days where I'm like, fuck, what was I doing? Yeah. And then you come to that realization. I have a question for you. When was that moment where you're like, okay, so it was February, what year that you came back?
2018.
Oh, 2018. Okay, so this is all recent, that Arsenault Canine Academy. Okay, so 2018, February, you come back like, holy shit, no one's being honest with me. No one's being truthful. No one executes on what they say. Yep. I've committed 15 years of my life to this. What goes through your mind? I'm curious, like, what was the trigger that you're like, fuck it, I'm going all in?
Yeah, it was basically the first, it was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I look for another job? Like, all I know is policing. This is one thing that I've learned too. I identified myself as a police officer. Mm-hmm. That was who I was a police officer. I had no other skills, no other value to give to anybody. Right. So that's what I thought.
That's what I was saying. That's what you thought.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And, I had to figure out how to utilize whatever skill sets I learned from policing into anything else that I did. So I'm searching. Maybe this dog training thing isn't going to work. I just spent, I don't know, I think it was like $15,000 on this course. So I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to train dogs for like $60 an hour? I'm going to have like a boarding kennel. I'm going to have to do a doggy daycare. I'm going to have to train. So I was like, no, this is it. This is what I meant to go do. This is what I'm doing. I have no back. This is it. I have kids to support and a family to support. I gotta I have to do it. There's no turning back. And I think if I would have had a plan B, this that we're doing right now wouldn't happen.
You burn your ships, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It almost came from like a fight or flight.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's exactly what it was. It was like, what are you going to do? Just roll over and give up, or fight
what
this?
advice would you give to someone that feels cornered, where they're left with no options?
You have more in you than you think you do.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's an absolutely like crazy story, but and it's funny because I see certain tendencies in him now based off of that. So like he sat for 5 years doing nothing, right? Just like your thoughts, right?
Fuck.
Waiting for someone to like this organization that says they, help you get going again to like get him going. So like now he's very much like if we have downtime, he's doing something. Yeah. Based off that, because he's like, I don't want to waste any more of my time. Right. So like he is like an ultimate executor, which is why we got along, because that's both because why am I going to waste time sitting doing nothing? I've already done that. It's already drove me crazy. And sometimes it's tough. Like when we're on a cruise, at Turks and Caicos, and it's like, hey, let's just chill for a bit. And he's like, no, we're not chilling. And I'm I get it. Okay, cool.
Are you happy when you do that?
Yeah.
Like when you're never off, are you happy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The goal is happiness.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Jason, what a freaking kudos to you, man.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You did it. And that's where I connect so much to your, to your story that you shall not, I could never imagine. And here's one thing. So you don't know this, I'm fanatical about our military and first responders, because I figure that is a level of sacrifice that how many people can really make. I wish I would have gone and served in the military. I wish it would have been the best thing for me out of high school. Yeah. Like it just would have been the best thing for me. But then I also see like the disappointment that many feel like when they're like, oh, it's a brotherhood. And yeah, it's the people that have each other's back that's a brotherhood. Yeah. But when it comes to like the departments and the politics, that there is no brotherhood. Yeah. It's everyone treated like an employee number. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship, because we get to go out there and say, fuck this, let's do culture, let's do family. And when we say family, it's not just a word that we throw around, but it's about like, who are you? What matters to you? Like, how can I make your day better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you think?
And well, we're trying to expand our culture, not just within our own organization, but within other dog trainers as well. Mm-hmm. Ever since we started, so I'm going to tell you, like when I first started the business as a dog trainer, dog training business, working for myself, self-employed, I always wanted to have an open door with other dog trainers. So the dog training industry can be very toxic. A lot of people can they talk shit about each other, and
which I'm sure is common in a lot of industries.
Yeah,
but this one is.
But you're the experts in your industry. Yeah. How come that is? I just want to understand like your industry, like a culture.
There's a saying that we have in the dog industry that if there's 3 dog trainers, the only thing they can all agree on is that the others are wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and it's true.
It's true. Yeah. So there's different methods of dog training. Plus, I think there's a high level of ego in dog training, because everybody wants to be the best. Yeah. Like
a scarcity mindset, honestly. Mm-hmm. That is what it is. It's like everyone is so worried that like, oh, if I give you this information that you're going to take off my table. Right. And there are so many dogs out there. Yeah. You do not need to worry about that ever.
Exactly.
There's like, think about Jenna, how many dogs
are
so
right. Yeah. You're so right about the scarcity mindset. And I was guilty of it. I had a scarcity mindset for a majority of my life. Now I have such an abundance mindset. I don't care. Other mortgage advisors all have them in here. They work at other companies. Yeah. Who cares? I love promoting great people. And that sounds like you want to do in the industry. Exactly. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, whoever was like, when there was other local dog trainers, I'd congratulate them on their accolades. I'd invite them to come train with me.
Let's go.
Like on my public page, right? Nice. On the dog training page. I never once got an invite to come train with them. No one ever came and took me up on my offers. No one else ever congratulated me on mine. I got the opposite. So, I mean, we're still trying to advocate for having that culture within the dog community, because I think it's important, and it's not about me. It's about having as many people can help as many dogs as we can, right? It's about helping the dogs, helping the people with the dogs. So that was one of my goals when I started. The other one was I always wanted to have a space or give back to people who have had PTSD, right? So if someone was in law enforcement or military, they'd get a discount, or we would, I would raise money for, there's a retreat that I always raise money for every year. And we'd be huge promoters of that, raising money for PTSD awareness, or it was the River Valley Resilience Retreat that we helped out a few times. So that was what I wanted to do as a dog trainer, and then help other dog trainers make enough money that, like I said, it wasn't a hobby for them anymore. Right. They could make a career out of it.
Yeah. It's a profession. It's not it doesn't have to be something that is a hobby that you're doing in your backyard. Like, this is like, I could show up and like, oh, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. Yeah, I'm a dog trainer. And it should have that same level, because it's like the talent that you have to see these dogs and, train these dogs to a certain result is like, it's a skill, right? So,
I think, we haven't even jumped into the conversation about dogs, which I'm really excited about. Yeah. To me, it's like you're doing something innovative that's different in your industry that's been so complacent with, like, this is how things have always been done. And you're going against the grain, right?
Yeah.
From what I gather,
for sure.
Like, fucking kudos to you, because that's what, like, it's so funny. People, because I'm in real estate, people always talk about opportunities. And I'm like, if you recognize the opportunity was present, it's already too late. Because if everybody else recognizes it too. So I think it's cool things like this. It's like, holy crap, like, we all don't work together, and who suffers? The dogs do. In San Diego, I will share with you, like, my dog, I love my dog. Dog is family. That's not, it's not a pet, okay? Yeah. I love that dog. Like, I love that dog. It is the best thing ever. It's like having a kid. Yeah. Having a newborn. You're like, I fucking love my dog. So before we jump into both your passions for dogs and how come, like, you're changing the industry, Jenna, like, how did...
Oh, I just came here to look pretty.
We know that. You got that covered. No, but you didn't wear the cool shoes. And if you want to see a cool story, they have a cool one. So first, tell us a little about yourself, and then how did the whole thing happen with Jason?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the connection is amazing between the two of you.
Yeah, and I like that. I just want to talk a little bit how you said how when you met us, we're like how we are on social media. I want to thank you for that, because that is something we want to be, as authentic. And I think with social media, there's so much stuff that is not authentic anymore, and people don't know, right? So that was a good compliment, because that is what we're trying to, just show that this is how we are. Like, we joke, we make fun of each other, we work together. And
if you weren't like that, you wouldn't be here, because we're all about advocating. You know who I advocate for? Good people that are doing great things out in the world and putting a positive message out there instead of the negativity. There's plenty of negative. We all can be negative. It's easy to be negative. How much harder is it to go against the grain and put out more positive? Yeah. So anytime I see people like that doing, and then I wasn't surprised when you talked about culture and family. Yeah. Yeah. You exude that from the moment that you see, like, you're great people. Like, that's what it's all about. Yeah. So,
thank you.
Yeah, compliment to both of you for being real.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's, my story is a lot different than Jason's. I was that kid at 18 years old that had no idea what I wanted to do. Right. And I had one parent pushing towards go to college, go to university. Like, if you don't go right after school, you're never going to go, and your life's going to be horrible.
We're awesome as parents, by the way. Yeah. We do great.
I do. Love you, Mom. Calling you out. No, but that's because that's what society has taught us, right? Is like, no, you go to school, you get a house, and you just hopefully work long enough to retire, and then hopefully live long enough in your retirement.
Right?
That's what it is. Hopefully. Exactly.
What a great word.
Yes, I know. So I did go to school for about 6 months. I think I went to like 2 classes maybe, and then stopped. Realized, because I'm on the smarter side with school, like academics, it was easy. So I realized, I can just do this all online. okay, I'll just study the night before, write my test, good mark, cool. I'm just not even going to go. Right. And then I realized this isn't what I want to do. I'm wasting my time. I paid out of my pocket for school. And then I'm like, okay, it's not what I want to do.
Do you remember the moment that happened where you're like, I'm done?
It was the first semester in. Like I said, I finished the semester and it just was like, it was more, I wanted to spend my money on other things. Like that next semester I didn't want to pay for. And then I'm like, well, why am I, racking up student loans for something that I have, like, I'm very driven, I'm very goal driven and oriented. Jenna. And so when I didn't have that, when I realized like, well, I'm just doing what people are telling me I'm supposed to do, it didn't align with me. And I made that realization. And then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do now?
How old were you?
18.
I'm going to have you talk to my 17-year-old. I love that. That's great that you're like, I'm not going to go status quo.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel right to me. Right. So, dropped out. And then I just started doing other jobs just to kind of like get some money. Right. Like I want to see what is my passion? What am I good at? So I did some like emergency responder stuff on a different level, more like oil field based. So it was nothing like what they deal with at all. And then I thought I met someone that was a dog trainer, super like, like home based, like it was very like low level, but I was just like, oh, that's a job. Hey, I like dogs. And I think running my own business would be really freaking cool. Right. So I'm like, oh, okay, how do I do this? And they're like, well, it's unregulated. So there's no like, you just figure it out. Right.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I don't like that. I like structure. I like, process it. I like all that kind of stuff. So I was like, whoa, okay, how does this happen? And I just started researching and then I found this certification program. And I'm like, okay, I'll spend my money on that. I buy the certification program. It was a waste of money, but that's all I knew. I just like, okay, well, I need to get certified. Right. So I pay for this program. I get certified. I finished the program and I'm like, oh, I knew more going into it. This was not very good, but it allowed me to make some contacts that I got in. So I started working hands-on with other trainers. So then I started figuring out, okay, it just comes from, shadowing others and just getting that hands-on experience with dogs. Like there is an educational part of it. But the true talent came from getting my hands on dogs and being able to, figure out how does this dog tick and what do I need to do to get this result, right? So I did that a bit.
What surprised you as you were learning?
Did that surprise you?
No, I said what was surprising to you? Something that you didn't expect that you learned?
I think it would be that's a tough one. It's
well, if I gave you easy questions.
No, I know. I'm just trying to like think on my feet. Like a good answer would be, I guess, just for me, like the ability of understanding like genetics in dogs and like how much that plays a portion of it. So like training a dog isn't like the be all end all. And a lot of people think that like, oh, they might see a dog and be like, oh, that dog was abused. He's nervous. He's scared. That's why he was abused. Well, no, a lot of it could just be genetics.
Really?
That dog.
It's not in always how they are raised.
Yeah, it's not always in how they're raised. I mean, that plays a portion of it, but a lot of it is and it's just like us, right? Just the genetics that we have, right? Some of us are going to be more introverted. Some of us are going to be, you know what I mean? So
that's where the personality comes in, right?
Yeah. So exactly, right? Like the fundamental personality, right? Obviously environmentals will, switch that. If you have a dog that's nervous and you have a really good, owner or trainer that's like good at building them up, they're going to build them up to a certain extent, but they're never going to be like the dog that had solid genetics and then solid training, right? So that kind of puts it on a scale, which I think a lot of people don't understand, right? That the genetics are such a component of it. So that's what I learned doing the training. My story is funny because I enjoyed training. I didn't want to shoulder you, sorry. I enjoyed training dogs, but there still was something missing. And that took me a little bit to figure out. So I would train dogs. I had my business going and I just started a business. I totally wung it, right? I'm like, okay, what do we do? Okay, we got to get clients, got to get classes, got to get going. And I was training dogs at a low rate which that was my first mistake. Charge what you're worth. But, you know, I was charging like a low amount to try to get people in.
But
and
you're
I was
18, 19, how old are you?
Yeah, I was 19 now.
Oh, let's go. That's incredible.
I was a baby, but so I was burning out because I'm like, you know, all my time is going to like training, and it's such a like, I'm not actually making a lot of money.
Right.
And there, like I said, there was a component missing, which bothered me because I'm like, well, I'm a dog trainer. I like my business. I like what I'm doing. Why do I feel like something's missing? So because of that, I would kind of off and I would go off and do other jobs. So my dog training was always kind of on the side.
Got it.
But I would go and I would take other positions to see if maybe that was like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing that. Right. So
you were experimenting.
Exactly. I was all over the place, just trying to figure out that one thing. And I'm very driven on like passion. Like I want to wake up every day and love what I do. And if it's not that, I don't want to do it. Like I'm just like, if I have to do something I don't want to do and it's not going to get me to my goal, I'm not doing it. Like just flat out.
Is that the connection between the two of you? Is the passion that you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Yeah. It's pretty, it makes it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah.
But, so it was funny because I got this position. Now I'm like 26, right? And I got this position as a security guard. So for a $1 million cannabis facility that was starting up in the town I was living in. Now, why I did that is because in my head, I was like, I want to learn the security world so that I can implement dogs into security. Like that was what my brain was thinking at the time. I'm going to just take this entry-level security job. I'm going to get an idea of how it runs and how it goes. And then hey, maybe I'll be onto something. Maybe I'll get dogs contracted in because I knew how to do that kind of training. You know, see what goes. So I get hired onto this position. I go in. And again, like I said, dog training on the side, part-time. And I go, they had nothing. They had no systems, no processes. They didn't even realize that you had to be certified to be a security handler. And I just threw fluke in dogs and knew that. And I'm like, holy shit, like they have no idea what to do. So I just stepped in and started going like, okay, you need this, this. Well, I basically ended up building out their whole security department, right? Just through like,
were your parents entrepreneurs?
No. It's
No,
I know.
Jason's like,
well, my dad dabbled a couple times and his wife dabbled a couple times. They owned a gym and they owned a resort for a bit, but my dad always had his retirement and then, or the RCMP. So I think it was something that they wanted to do, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know. My mom was not at all like that. And my dad was he wasn't an entrepreneur. He was the guy that was like, he should have been. He had all these great ideas and never executed. And I think that is why I am the way I am, because I watched so many good ideas get flushed down the toilet because he never took that step.
Ooh, he taught you a valuable lesson. Yes. And you know what that is? You took action.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's not great. Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure out, I'm like, where does her spirit come from entrepreneurship? I walk into the cannabis. What the fuck? You have no systems? Let's build them.
Yeah.
That's an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was funny. So I did that. And I guess this would be a little like life lesson in my journey. So there was one other girl in this department that she got hired kind of the next level above me, and together, basically we built it. And mostly, to be frank, it was me, and she would go to the meetings and this is what we built. So COVID hits and I get called into the office, and again, like I've built this whole department and stuff, and the one lady, the vice president, like chats and she's like, hey, like, you know, when I see what you're doing, like I love what you're doing, but like, we know that you have a dog training business on the side. Like, we're not sure how invested you are in the company. And here I'm sitting like, are you kidding? Like, what? I just built all this stuff. They were like, we really like you. We like your spirit. We're going to move you into a different department because COVID's coming. We don't have a lot of money. So they actually demoted me. After doing all that stuff, they demoted me and moved me to this like, you know, labor position. So this is kind of a life lesson that I think I had, because I think a lot of people would have got pissed off.
This is one of the reasons why I just love this woman so much.
I think most people would have got pissed off, quit. Like, I did all this for you and this is how you treat me, blah, blah, blah. So what I wanted to do was prove to them that they moved the wrong person. So I spent all my time. I figured out that they had no training department, no internal training. So I've built their security team now. And I'm like, they have no tracking of like, and they have 60 staff right now. Like they had a lot of people and they had no, paperwork or paper trail of like, hey, they've gone through this training, this training, this training. Hey, good. They're competent. They're ready to go. So I built their whole like internal training department. And then I just showed her, I was like, hey, this is what I made. And they're like, okay, here, we're going to move you to this position now. And then I just worked my way up because I just, like I said,
because you're a badass.
It was taking that, instead of, like I said, a lot of people would just take that as a fail, get mad, versus like, hey, like what is the opportunity here? There was opportunity that if I would have let my emotions win, I would have lost, right?
Can you expand on that, like with regards to your emotions? How come you didn't react the way most would have? You reacted the way Jenna did.
Because I'm a little competitive. So I think in the sense of like, I knew what had happened. I knew that this girl had taken like a lot of the, what's the word? Credit. There we go. I've taken a lot of the credit. So how do you prove that? Like to me, I would have failed if I quit, because then I would have been like, yeah, it was all her. I didn't do anything here. Thank you. Because again, I was a number, right? Like I really, at that point, was just a person in the company, right? So like, what is the other way to handle that? Which is like, let's prove you wrong. And here, let me look. Oh, you got nothing here. Okay. I'll build this out and then I'll show it to you. And then you're going to realize you had it all wrong, which is exactly what happened.
How did you feel after that meeting when you, what were you feeling?
Top of the world for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like after that, when I showed
when you were.
Oh yeah. No, it was good. And it was funny because I ended up like working my way up. I was about like third in the company by the end, way above the other girl that
a machine.
Yeah. And it's just because if there was room to expand, like I had to take it. Like my driver is for like to feel that level of success, right? So I'm not really motivated by money, to be honest. Like it's a nice byproduct to have, but money is not my motivation. Like I want to be able to like achieve certain, levels in my life and constantly have that challenge. Like if I'm bored, that's really detrimental for me because it's not good, right? So I just had to climb that ladder. And which is funny because I think a lot of people get into that. I want to call it a trap in a sense because you get trapped in this corporate ladder. That's what I was in, was this corporate, okay, now I've worked my way up. Cool. I feel good. My pay didn't really change that much because of how salary worked. It was just like, that's when I started noticing like, oh, okay, I'm putting a lot of effort in and like, yeah, I'm getting raises, but like, that's not changing my lifestyle because, it's just not that much extra. So
how did you realize like that wasn't like, did you read a book? Like, how did you come to this realization? Like, hey, this math isn't working out. I'm doing all this work to make them wealthy and I'm not changing my life in any way, shape or form.
I think it was because I was like, I could feel it. Like I'm pretty like intuitive with that stuff, but I could see, okay, like I'm very much like energy, like how much energy I'm putting into certain things. So I'm like, hey, I'm putting a lot of energy and I'm getting a lot of pat on the backs. Like I feel good. I feel like I'm accomplishing things, but there's still this other level of stress in my life because it's not changing my situation financially, really. Like an extra $200 every paycheck. That's nothing, right? And while I'm doing this, I also have my dog training business. So anytime I would get off work, I went right and I was training dogs. And then all weekend I was training dogs because I didn't want to ever like be capped financially, right? So in my mind, all I knew then was like, okay, I can control my finances on this. So I'm going to do my corporate stuff, make me feel good. And then I'm going to have my dog training on the side for extra money, hopefully try to change my situation. But again, it wasn't changing my situation. So I ended up, once I really got to the point where I was like, there, I still felt like a number, even though like I was doing good. I was still a number at the end of the day. And a lot of it was with the pandemic and all that stuff that was happening. Their values with it didn't align with mine. And then once there was like a little bit of conflict there, I could see it starting to like on their end. They're like, oh, okay. It shifted the energy a lot, and I could tell that. So, I was like, hey, let's try this dog training thing again. But now I have the skill set of building systems and processes, which I can take and implement in my dog training business. And once I started doing that, I was like, oh, I'm onto something now, because now I hired another trainer so then I could have her going while I was doing other stuff. And it just started the ball rolling and kind of getting out of that financial corporate trap.
Yeah.
Right?
What year was this?
That would have been, that was like 2021, beginning of 2021.
Got it. Okay, so that's fairly recent.
Yeah. So
when did you realize it started all clicking where you're like, okay, wait a minute, I'm onto something? Do you remember that moment, like where you just realized it, like I'm onto something?
I think like the moment was, I guess, where, like I said, once I started seeing, so all these businesses are getting shut down, right? Because of the C word. They're all getting shut down. People are struggling. And I'm like, well, dog training doesn't really make sense to shut down, because there's me in the room, there's a handler, there's a dog. And we can stay, pretty far apart, like to fall within the rules that they had in place. Quotations. You
don't want to get me started on
I know. I'm like, I don't want to get this canceled. So, so I'm like, okay, how do I play this game their way, but still win on my end, right? Because everyone was shutting down. And it made no sense to me, because it was not.
I bet you're going to know what she's going to say, what she did.
Yeah. So I built certain like system, like policies on this, so that if they came to me and tried to like shut it down, I would be like, hey, this is our policies. And I had like a whole thing of like this, like, cause I'm like, I'm going to prove to you that like your stuff doesn't make sense for me. So shoo. But, so that's, and that was
play the game.
Exactly. So that's what, and then I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. And I just built it from there. So, but it was funny because I just made that decision. And then like, I don't know, weekends later, we met at a dog training event.
So this is all, now our lines are coming into path.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So she sends me, I don't know, it was a mutual friend or something. She sends me a message or a friend request on Facebook. And at that time,
I'm an executor. I just,
like,
I want
go for the jugular.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking you were passive at all.
No.
But I appreciate the fact that you were reinforcing, like, I don't wait for anything. I just go for it.
Yeah. I was like, who's that guy on Facebook? Friend request.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right.
So at that time I was very single. So I got this friend request from her. So I'm like scrolling. I'm like, nice, right? So I sent her a message. I'm like, welcome to my friends list of people that I will never talk to again.
Is that was what you said on Messenger?
That's what I said to everybody when they sent me a friend request.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Just to see what they would do, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
So then.
You train dogs?
Good. Yeah. And then it started. And then we talked for, I don't know, what was it, like a week straight?
Yeah.
Like every day, multiple times a day, all day. And then we met, and then we actually met in person at a dog training event. Mm-hmm. And then hit it off. And
then I think 2 weeks later, we went on a business trip. Yeah. And like together, we still had our separate businesses. Like, let's do a business trip together. And we realized how like obsessive each person was about business. And it was easy because I think a lot of relationships, like either one person's an entrepreneur and the other's not, or like, and it's like, oh, why are you staying up to 12 o'clock at night doing this or that? And that's like, oh yeah, like let's stay up to 3 a.m. building this, right? Like it made sense to us. Yeah. And it was, I mean, for me, it was like I wasn't totally ready to commit. Like I was scared of commitment. Yeah. I was scared. He's like a rescue dog that I saved. Yeah.
Good for you, Jason. Yeah. Like, you look happy, man. I'm like, I'll take it. I win.
Yeah.
So it was cool because like we both had like similar entrepreneurial pasts, I guess you could say. Because like when I was a kid, it's funny because my mom was part of Amway. You know, remember Amway?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is I would buy all this candy. Like I had a job at a pizza place. I was washing dishes. This is 12 years old. I would buy all this candy with my paychecks, and I would set it all up in my basement window and have all the kids in the neighborhood come and buy candy and stuff from me. So, and I did that, and that was my little store that I had. I'd also catch gophers, and I would sell them to other kids at school. Yeah. So that was.
Let's talk about the gophers. What exactly would you be selling gophers to other kids for? As pets.
As pets.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So I'd catch these gophers.
So you were an entrepreneur at like 12.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the basement, like freaking candy store.
As long as you didn't eat it.
As long as I didn't eat it.
It's incredible, like the chemistry that you have.
Yeah.
So first, that week that you can't stop talking to each other.
Yeah.
What did you love about Jenna?
I don't know. Everything was just so easy to talk about. Everything was just so easy. And like I said, I wasn't ready to commit, or I didn't think I was ready to commit. So for me, it was like, business fun, you know, like I wasn't sure where I was going to go. And so like she said, we both had our separate businesses, and I was, of course, the better dog trainer.
Right.
A little
And
bit.
Not even touching that,
little
but
bit.
you're on your own.
not a little bit. It was
Just kidding.
a lot of
You had good dog training programs.
So by this time I had expanded. I had 3 locations in Saskatchewan, Canada. So I had the 3 major cities I had trainers in.
Well, can I ask you a question? What is unique about, now that we're diving into this, what is it exactly that you're doing that you were able to expand? You had your breakthrough. You're like, I'm going all in. This was February 2018, right?
Yeah.
And when did you have when did you and Jenna meet? What year was that?
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had his business going
Awesome.
for a bit. Yeah.
So what was setting you apart? Were other people, because you were expanding during like I don't mind saying COVID. During COVID, you were expanding it. So
I don't know. I think it was it was part of like the professionalism. So I had my trainers that I hired, I made them wear, like they had to wear uniforms. We were professional.
You got into a building that was like super professional.
We got into a professional building. I charged a lot for dog training, and I provided excellent results. So there was nobody else around that could even come close.
Nice.
Yeah,
so you had a huge competitive advantage.
And it was all word of mouth because I had no idea about this was the part of my business was garbage, because it was all I knew was I was a police officer and I could train dogs, right? So all I knew was I could talk to people, I could train the heck out of a dog, but if you wanted me to tell you about accounting, no. If you wanted me to talk about policies and procedures, no.
Okay,
and then so she was, of course, as we've heard, the master over here. So we're like, why are we working? Because I was helping her with her dog training programs. I was telling her she was charging too little, helping her with talking to people on the phone, sales, stuff like that. And then, so I'm like, why are we doing this? Let's just join it. And then we were both like, of course, now, whose name are we going to keep? So are we going to keep my name or her name or
what was your company's name?
It was True North Canine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you decide on?
Just the outreach that we had already with our
You don't want to go through a branding change. That makes sense.
Yeah. The branding, as you see, it was pretty strong. So I let him win that one.
So then ever since then, it's just like, it took off even more, because there was like times we asked a bunch of people because of culture and stuff, because I didn't, that wasn't what I was paying attention to. Right.
Yeah.
Policies, they didn't like her implementing new policies, new procedures.
That was your team?
Yeah, that was my team.
Okay, got it.
So
there was a little resistance.
There was a lot of resistance.
A lot of resistance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you both learn from that resistance?
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A lot, because it was almost like we were just talking about it, like that, his initial business almost like died, and we've like, there's been a rebirth ultimately, because, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was the sense of like, because he said like, okay, I'm a dog trainer, I'm just going to do this, which I think a lot of people do. And then they can't get out of that trap. And then they start like, so he said he'd expanded, but he had no policies, like nothing. So it actually wasn't really at a part to be scalable yet.
Exactly.
So it collapsed in a sense because it just like you couldn't sustain it, right? So
it wasn't where I had actual goals and outlines where, okay, I'll expand at this number. I was like, okay, well, I've got people wanting training from 5 hours, 6 hours away. So I'm just going to open a location over there. It's going to go. Why not? And then I did, and it went, right? And then just open up here. People wanted it from everywhere. So,
for a bit, exactly. And then, but then it stopped working because then it's like, okay, now there's this problem here and there's this problem here, but Jason's the only one that can actually do all that.
Yeah.
So then it's like, but he can't be here and he can't be there. And that's where like a lot of the issues came from, right? So because like ultimately like a big thing back then was like almost like what we call like a shark tooth theory, right? Where like if one, there's the rows of teeth. So if one tooth falls out, there's another to replace it. And he didn't have that. But now he has all these facilities and we know people, like things happen. They go their separate ways. They have health issues, boom, gone. Okay, now you have this location, but you don't have a trainer to operate out of it. Right. Yeah. So it was just, and there was no, like to train someone was such a process because he didn't have processes. They didn't have systems. He didn't have the ability to like efficiently train people fast. He was just trying to duplicate himself, but it wasn't working. And then like when I first met him, I was like, how are you alive right now? Because he was like on the phone all the time, like putting out fires everywhere because no one else knew what to do. He only knew what to do. Right.
And it was, this came from this is part of that PTSD stuff where I sat around for so long. And it was also a lesson that my dad taught me when I was younger. So this is a good story. I think that anything that's worth it, you got to work for it. Right. So how he taught me that was back, I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years, something like that. There was a movie came out. I'm sure you might remember it. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go see this movie. I saw a preview or an ad for it somewhere. It looked super cool. He said, okay, I'll take you. But here's a list of all the characters in the movie. You need to write me an essay on every single one of them before I'll take you. So I wrote an essay on Socrates, on Joan of Arc, on Beethoven, on Genghis Khan,
Savage,
on like all these, like whoever was in the movie. And I wrote them all this because it was important to me to go see this little movie, right? At that age, I was like, okay. So that stuck with me. Like, and then he took me, we went, and that was my first time ever in a theater.
When I hear like parenting moments like that, doesn't it just like warm your heart? You're like, thank goodness. Thank you, Dad.
Yes.
And that's where I realized like my power as a parent is the most important power that I have to continue to build. Mm-hmm. And how many parents really, really take the time to continue to grow their parenting skills. Yeah. So it's been you have an 18-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And you have 2 kids?
Yeah.
18 and a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So mine are like, I have all teenagers, 17, 15, and 13. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, the world is a hard place the world is a hard place. And to become hard, you got to do hard shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the biggest lesson. Yeah. And you have such a cool, like, it only gets better as I get to know both of you because you're like, you're going through the full gauntlet of entrepreneurship, life, and shit goes wrong and shit's going to continue to go wrong. And it's like, then you put your powers together and holy shit, what happened after you merged? You go through this restructuring. Now, what are the results?
So now it's amazing because we have all these systems in place and we were able to build that culture. Because we had to get rid of everyone.
Pretty much.
Basically everyone because we tried to like keep one and take this one. Oh, this one's a good trainer. And it was like, there was just such a toxic culture there because like I said, it was a free for all.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I show up and I'm like, it's not a free for all anymore. Like we have to implement all this stuff and we had to do it fast. Like it wasn't like.
You don't have time. I mean, you're running a business.
Exactly. Like, it would have been nice to like have a slow roll of things, but there was nothing. And I'm like, there's gotta be something. Right. So, we had to implement it, but honestly, like, we had to make decisions that like sucked for the business and like sucked for revenue, but it lined up with a bigger goal, right? Yeah. So, like axing a whole location just because there was so much toxicity there and it was affecting other things. We're like, nope, boom, gone. Like we will take that loss of that whole location because the bigger picture is having this culture, right? And this mentality and mindset, right? And with our business, like our core values, like one of the biggest ones is like, don't settle. Like we never settle. Every day we're constantly like pushing forward and building personal development and, you know, in the business and stuff like that. And we can't have anyone in our team that wants to just show up like a cushy 9-to-5 job and coast. Exactly. That's not, it doesn't align with us. You're going to hate your life because we're going to have pressure on you. And it's just, we're going to be frustrated because you're not doing anything. So that's not us. Right. So now we just start off with that and we attract those people that are already like that. And it's cool because it's like, I was watching the Tom Brady documentary about them being edgers and how like they kind of like hold each other accountable. And it's like, hey, I worked out at 6 a.m. Like, what about you? Well, I've been there since 5:30, right? Like it was a healthy like competition, but everyone's going towards the same goal while holding each other accountable, right? And when I heard that, I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing. It's like, I want to make sure that no one outworks me, and not in a bad way, but I don't want anyone to say I did more than you. Yeah. Right. But I want my team to think like that too. So we're all kind of moving, but have that same direction. Right. Yeah. So it's cool. Now that we figured it out, it's friggin' fun. Like this is it. People say this is a game. And when we started out, it was a stressful game of a lot of lessons. But
we definitely saw, you know, culture, everything looked all fine and dandy on the outside and it looks like you have a good culture. But do you only have that good culture when things are going well? Because there was a few times where, we saw it when she came in or there was a bad paycheck. Somebody got a bad paycheck. The culture fell apart, right? Yeah. There was no culture in the bad times.
Yeah.
True culture is what the culture is when things are bad.
That's how that's how things last. That's how people last. It's like, can you handle things when all shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. And we're not even into what's coming. The good parts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I want to, so you implement the systems, the processes in order to put yourself in a position to scale. You're changing the culture. You're hiring new team members. You're taking the risk of saying, you know, this location isn't working. It's actually an energy sucker. Yeah. You're getting rid of it. Then what happens with results? How are things looking after all the changes?
Well, it took a little bit because we had to put ourselves in proximity of people that were doing things that we weren't doing, right? And getting different knowledge that we didn't have, right? So after we got some knowledge, we kept learning, and then we started to implement things. We're going pretty good. And then, you know, we found somebody that actually gave us a vehicle, right?
And who was that?
Mike Barron.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. You had him on yesterday. So we met Mike and...
When did you meet Mike?
3 months ago.
Yeah, like he really helped with like we had a lot of it, but it like connected the dots.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We were putting it all together. And
how did you connect with Mike Barron?
It was funny because it was purely on a sales side. So before we were all like everyone was doing sales, like we were handling our own sales, and now we're like, okay, our next step is building a sales team.
Okay.
So a trainer posted on a Facebook group like, hey, you know, I'm having success with, you know, the sales team if anyone's interested. So he clicked on it and it went right to the sales guy, and it was Mike's sales. Because it's funny that because if we would have saw him like organically, I don't think we would have went with him, because just nothing wrong with him. Just his branding is like, we're like country folks from Canada. Like, you know, we're not listening to the rap music and stuff like that. So I don't think it would have aligned, but we met through a sales guy and then talked to him. And then because like we've invested a ton of money with people like high up names that didn't deliver on results that like we needed. So we were like a little bit hesitant to go with Mike, because we're like, okay, like, are you going to be just like everybody else that's like, yeah, I talk a big game, but I can't execute and I can't, you know, implement what I have
Jenna,
to say.
you have no bullshit, dude.
No.
Well, I was gonna add it. We did get a lot of information, but no vehicle.
Exactly. No, yeah. I am no bullshit.
Okay. Yeah. That was a huge compliment. Yeah, that's a huge compliment, because I agree with you. Being in real estate, every marketer wants to sell you leads and they want to sell you this pipe dream that they can't deliver on because they really don't care about you.
Yeah,
they don't care about you. Let's be real. We can know the difference. Like what makes me different in my space, and I like entrepreneurship, everything that you're talking about, every person I've had in that seat, regardless of what product they sell, the fundamentals don't change from industry to industry. You got the skill set, but without systems, processes, and branding and marketing, it doesn't go anywhere no matter how great your product is, because if nobody knows about it,
exactly.
So I love the fact that you're saying, like, this is what we saw. Like, we spent all this money and it's obscene how much money you can spend on branding and marketing.
Totally.
So it's so cool for you to say, like, Mike is so different, and we wouldn't have gone with him if we saw him organically.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So I've told him this too, so it's not a surprise. But
what was it about the sales call? What was it about the sales call that changed your mind?
I think the whole process that they put us through was just like,
it
was like, we looked at each other and said, this is what we're trying to get to. This is what we're building out now. And this is the finished product.
Yeah.
So they connected with what your goal was.
Yes, exactly.
And they took the time to find out, like, where you were heading.
Yeah. It was, and like there was still like a fear there because we were like, oh, what if this is another one that we pay for and it's all fine and dandy, but then we can't implement anything because we don't know how to implement it, right? Because implementing isn't that's not our problem. Like if you give us the information, like we can get it done. Yeah. But it's like it was learning the game, right? And figuring out how to do some of this stuff. So it was funny because the process was exactly how they said the process was going to be, and we're like, oh. Okay.
They actually follow through on what they said, just like we do. We run our business this way. They run their business. Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah. Exactly. Isn't it incredible when that happens? And you know what the shocking thing is? It's actually normal to be disappointed, and we accept it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Right?
Makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I know. So it's been awesome because it just gave us like just that little bit of connections we needed. And then with us, like when we're into something, we're in it, we're doing it. So obviously we're building a good relationship with Mike and his team because they're like, oh, these aren't someone that just came in being like, save me. And like, you know, I'm not going to do any work though. Like, it's like, there is an element of work that you have to do, but hey, now like they gave us the vehicle. Yeah. This is exactly what you need. Like, I don't want to do a sales pitch for Mike, like just randomly, but it's like, here is exactly what you need to do to get from point A to point B here. And if you do it, you're going to get that result.
And that's what we're doing now with our new business.
Yeah.
Remember when I told you at the beginning that we have, one of my goals was to help as many trainers as I could become a profession, have it be their profession, right? And get out of that grind where you're trading time for money and where you're actually running a business and not just being, self-employed, right? Yes. So it's like, the way I look at it is like, you need to go to a destination. If you take an Uber all the time, sit on your phone, not pay attention, you're going to get to your destination, but it's going to take a long time. And eventually you might look up and you can see things, but before you put it all together, it's going to be so long, right? But what we're trying to do for other dog trainers is we're going to sit there and we're going to put them in the driver's seat so they can find their way right with us as their guide.
Yeah. So basically you build up, you went through all the hard stuff.
Everything.
Just took your punches, punch. I love it. What made you decide that we're having success? Now we have the skills, we have the systems, we've been burned by marketers that overpromise and underdeliver. We're going to do the dog training to CEO. Like how did that manifest?
Well, first of all, you know how, as you can see, we kind of like being under pressure, right? Like I need something to keep myself moving forward. So we needed to get something new going on and build it and progress with what I wanted to originally do, right?
Right.
So what happens when you're under pressure? Either diamonds are built or pipes burst.
Okay.
Right? Because either you can handle it or you can't. And I think we can handle it. Mm-hmm. So we just decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to move in to this field and honestly, like with both of our stories, like starting the dog training career was like, where do you start?
Yeah.
And like I said, we've spent how many years, like I've been doing my dog training business for like 9 years and he was 6 years, like doing all the things wrong for so many years while we're learning how to do it right. Like if we can condense that time frame for other trainers, and then it's like, hey, you don't need to go what we went through. You can do it this way, and you can, gain that financial and time freedom. I think that has been the most important thing that we've gained is just freedom to do whatever. Then like we have valuable things to share with people because like, hey, if we could take all these mistakes and help someone else out, which ultimately is going to help more dogs out. So it's kind of like the cause is huge because yes, we want to help more dog trainers, but that filters down to people. Like not like that's a whole nother story, but like people's connection with the dogs and what dogs do for people and, things like that. Like it's just, there's so much positive that can come from allowing dog trainers to be successful. Right?
Yeah. And I'm going to wait because we didn't even dive into how dogs saved you from PTSD and how this is. So it's manifested to now we're going to do dog trainer to CEO because your ultimate goal is, hey, we want the dogs to be better trained, healthier, happy family. What is the need for this? Like you said, there's problems in the dog training space because people don't collaborate together.
Exactly.
And basically who suffers is
the dogs.
The dogs.
The dogs, exactly.
Okay. Our family, I don't know if you know the stats on this. Jenna, I'm sure you're a research freak when it comes to this. Like when it comes to like families' growth in dogs, that families having more pets that are dogs, like is that on the growth?
Oh, yeah, I would say
okay, do you see what I mean? Like my question is like how important and critical is this to your space?
It is super critical because there's like I think there's more people getting dogs than having children now. Right.
Ooh,
and I honestly do. I don't have scientific, so someone could fact check me. And if you do, you can send it to me. But I honestly think that the case now, because more people are passionate with their careers and it's, a little bit easier to have a dog than it is kid. Like it's just the mindset of having a dog is growing.
Yeah.
We saw even with the pandemic and everything, it didn't slow down. Right. And, everyone's going through this transition now. And like we're constantly going up. Right. So it's like the industry is so strong, the pet industry, people like, it's not going anywhere. And everyone says it's so like saturated, but it really is not for people that are willing to do it right. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's the key, is willing to do it right.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, how come they think it's saturated?
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
Because what sets you guys apart is you're doing, and what does right look like?
Well,
it wasn't what I did before. So what I did before, I focused everything, all my extra training, everything into finding the best people I could learn from in the training field. So I traveled all across Europe, United States, everywhere, finding these mentors like to teach me how to train dogs. Do you think I thought about anyone to teach me about business? No. Because I thought that I was just going to get by on training dogs. Whereas I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they don't concentrate on the business part of it and the structure. And then that's where a good business or good dog training business comes in, is that they have these structures and they have these policies and procedures that they can implement to better serve the clients.
Exactly. Because there's 4 tiers to this game, right? Or like what we say is 4 tiers to the dog training, to go from dog trainer to like business operator, right? So we say the first one is trading, because we're trading your time for money, right? Like you're in the game, you're either putting in equal effort and getting payback, or you're putting more effort and getting less pay. Like you're trading, there's an exchange, right? The second one now, so you're trading, you're a dog trainer. That's what he was when I met him, right? The next thing was implementing. Okay, so we got to implement these systems, these processes to be able to be duplicatable, right? And have some automations here so that you can start, creating flow without it just being you, right? And then the next we say is appoint. So you're going to now appoint people to replace you in those different divisions. Now things are flowing. Okay, you're overseeing things now. Right? Things are going. And then the last one I like is create, because that's where we're at now. We're in creation because we have the time now and the financial freedom to create more in our business, to create more opportunity for our employees, to create more for our community. Like, it's just, we wouldn't have been able to do it to that extent if we had not climbed those tiers, right? If we didn't get out of trading time for money, implement systems, appoint people to do what we're doing. And then now we have so much more opportunity, right? So those are the 4 things. It's easy. I say it's easy, but it is easy once you understand the concepts and you know what to do.
Yeah, it's easy when you did what you guys did, got pounded and said, "Oh, by the way, I think we figured out a better way to do this." Yeah, it's easy for whoever's going to pay for your program.
Yes.
So here's what my question is. So do you watch other dog trainers nationally?
Yeah.
Like, is there companies that are doing what you're doing?
I don't know if they're doing exactly what we're doing.
Right.
But there are very successful dog companies. There are some franchises out there. Yeah.
Have you seen them? What's different about what they're doing versus what you're doing? And I'm not saying that your competition you should look at. I'm just curious on, why should I, if I'm a trainer and I want to get into this space because I'm passionate about dogs, and I think you have to absolutely, like, this is an industry, if you get into it just for money, you'll never connect with people because dogs are like family. You know what I mean? So I think you got to have a passion. So if someone's looking at it, why should they choose your program versus anyone else?
Yeah. Oh.
Well, we don't know if I'm not sure if there's I think there's a couple other companies that, or at least one other person that's doing, putting in, helping people with marketing and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think what's different about ours is that we're putting everything in. We're not just marketing. We're not just sales, teaching dog trainers how to sell. We're teaching dog trainers how to sell, how to market, how to brand, how to systemize.
Yes, exactly.
You have the overall ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole ecosystem. Yep. So that, like, anyone, like someone that is just like wanting to be a dog trainer can enroll and they know exactly what to do. And they are super lucky because they don't have to really make any mistakes. I don't want to say they're never going to make a mistake, but it's super easy. Or the companies that were like Jason was when I met him, like, why is things not getting better? Because that's what it was. I'm putting all this effort in. Why aren't things blowing up? Like, my results are good, right? So those people that are just like hitting that wall, now it's like, here's the information. And not just the information, but this is exactly step by step how to do it. We like hold your hand and we make sure that you get there. And honestly, like, their success is our success because we want to change how the industry is, like the fundamentals and this, like I was saying, or you were saying earlier, like, everyone's closed off. And, typically if you were just to go do a course with somebody, they're going to give you, let's say, 85% of the picture, but leave that rest out because I don't want you to know more than me.
Yeah.
I don't want you to take my information and I don't want you to become better than me. So a lot of these courses that people do, they give enough information, but not the whole picture because they don't want you taking that and doing better than them. Here we're like, okay, these are everything, the step by step, but we know works and exactly what you need to do. This is 100% the information. We don't hold anything back because it does a disservice to our programs if it doesn't work. Right? Like, we need people to be successful in this, and we need to change that mindset and have dog trainers working together. Like, I don't want to have a problem working with another dog trainer or even their style, because there's a bunch of different dog training styles out there. It doesn't even matter what your style is. This will work for you. That's what I like about it.
And not only do we just give you the program, but we're going to coach you through for the next, few months and to make sure you're doing it. And we're going to be on you. Do this, do this, do this. Did you get this done? Did you get this done? And you know what? And alluding to what Jenna said is giving everybody 100% of what we have, because we're not afraid. We want them. We want people. If you can do better than us, do it. Please.
Well, the reality is and some are going to do better than you guys, and you're going to learn from them and incorporate what they have, which makes your industry better. Yeah. So have you read the Blue Ocean Strategy? So
I know of it. I haven't read it all, but
you'll love that. Yeah. So I guess my question, this is based on that book, like, what has been broken about your industry that no one has addressed that you guys are focused on addressing and solving for people, so that way it improves the industry as a whole?
I would say it's taking what people perceive as a dog training business and turning it into an actual business. So like, people don't fully understand system and processes and client management and customer service, like that kind of stuff. So our knowledge that we have over the years, over what I had with another $1 million company, like treating our dog training businesses like that. Like people aren't doing that right now. They're just, I think the big problem is people are starting dog training businesses because they don't really like people. They really like working with dogs. So now they have something going against them because actually people are the most important part of the business, right? So they're set back because they don't have the skill set of how to, work with those problems and those things that come up with working with people and their dogs, right? So giving people that knowledge, and like I want it to be where like you Google how to become a dog trainer and it's like this is the university course, right? That's why we call it Arsenault Canine University. This is the university course that's going to get you from here. You're enrolling, you're a newbie to, hey, you're running, a multi 6, 7, 8 figure dog training business. Because the money is there to be made. That
is crazy. Yeah. And I always look at, I like educating people about money and assets and how money works, because that's the game you have to play. If you don't learn how to play it, then you just lose the game because you don't understand it. So it's so fascinating for me to hear your story about how you're taking an industry that has been very, very set in its ways, and you're saying, hey, we're gonna incorporate all these things. And dog, you wouldn't think of like dog trainers, I'm gonna go on social media and I'm gonna do all these things. And that's where I think you could carve out a niche. And there's really no one doing what you're doing, because you said there's a company focused on the marketing aspect of like, hey, you're a dog trainer that's having success, here's how you market it, but they're not putting all the business pieces together. Because here's the way I look at it. If you go and market, you get more customers, but you don't have the skills and systems in place, then you're going to deliver a bad experience. And then whatever extra business that you get is going to go down the toilet because you can't deliver.
Yeah.
That sound pretty accurate?
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
No, I know. And there's all these, these different components to the business, right? A little tidbit for people listening, if they do, this works for any business, not just dog training, but, we utilize like a red light, green light, or red light, yellow light, green light theory. So basically breaking down, so it kind of goes into what you said, like you have your sales, department, let's say, you have your marketing, you have your delivery, you have operations. So that would be like your systems and your processes, and then your finances, right? And we use this like red, yellow, green light theory of like, hey, let's go through all the tasks or everything that is involved in that department, and where are they? Like our green light is like 100% perfect. We're good. We're happy. That's flowing. Happy. Yellow is like there's room for improvement, right? And then red is like it doesn't exist or it's bad, right? So just if you break down those components in your business and you start looking at it, now you got, okay, I see where my red and my yellows are and my green, and you start focusing on like, okay, we're gonna pick these goals, and on sales, our sales is super red, but our delivery is green. Okay, we need to up our sales, but we still need to pay attention to the delivery, like you said, because that needs to match, right? Like, so people need to understand that whole picture. If they don't understand all of that, then something is going to give, and it's constantly, adjusting as you need. It's never like, oh, you just do that and you're going to be fine forever. Like, good luck. Great. You have to evolve.
But the goal is never to be all green. The goal is never to be all green because you never want to be able to be settled and equal. You always want to have improvements somewhere.
And that's where the dog trainer to CEO. Yeah. So who came up with the concept of doing that? And then you build a whole educational platform? How many students are going through it right now?
Well, this goes exactly to who we are. So I originally wanted to start a dog training school, where I train trainers. Nice. Right. So I have done that. I've had a school and I've trained some trainers that have gone, learned how to be a dog trainer. But then her, having her background and brain, decided, let's take this further and let's just teach them how to do the whole thing. Okay. Right. So this is all about to be launched.
Amazing.
This is new.
So we're seeing the beginning stages, which is incredible, because you've had success in the space, and now you're like, okay, we're gonna teach the roadmap, which I think is a natural part. Like you have certain success and you have a system that works that's different than everybody else. Why not coach to it?
No, and you can look and see, hey, we've done it. Like, it's not like we're just saying, hey, come follow us. Like, this is what our brains thought and it's cool. It's like, no, we implement this. We have locations that are going off these systems that are successful. Like, we have dog trainers working for us, like bringing in 10, 12, 15K a month, like Canadian.
Yeah.
Like, just to be real, but you know what I mean? Like that is life changing. And you know, we heard, oh, you're just a dog trainer. You're going to be a dog trainer. Yeah. Wait till you start seeing her paychecks and you'll be like, man, I think I might want to be a dog trainer. I don't know. I love dogs.
I wouldn't mind being a dog trainer. I'm intrigued. I'm thinking about who could invest in this business.
Yeah.
Well, one of the trainers we helped, she was a mortician before.
Wow.
And now
went to school and did all that.
And then now she said she's making more than she ever did as a mortician.
Yeah. And morticians do pretty well.
Yeah.
So, and that's not,
in Canada, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not that's not the end game of it, because like you said, it's so.
But she wanted, that was her goal, is she wanted to work with dogs, right?
That's amazing. So what is it about like Mike Barron? Like, what was it that has started that relationship, and what's really stood out before we dive in? And I want to finish up with Jason and like where the PTSD and dogs came to. So what happened with Mike Barron? What was so different with him, since you guys brought it up?
Yeah, so it was just that, like I said, when they told us what the program would include, then we were like, okay, fine. Like, well, here's some money. Let's see. And then it was like, oh, okay, we got onboarded and like the system worked. And then we were thinking, okay, these are things that like we have going on that we can like tweak this a little bit and it makes sense. And then with him, like we met them, and it's having that like-minded people. So like a big thing that people need, which again worked for us, is having that group or that person to like bounce things off of. So with Mike's stuff, we aligned. Like, it was like instant. Like, even though we can be different people and like different music and things like that like the end goal is very similar, and the traits that we all carry are very similar. The morals. Things like that. So it was really easy in that sense, because it's like when you meet people that are like you're like, okay, I like that. So, you know, that's what worked for us. And I think that is what we're trying to give to other people, right? Is like, hey, like, come on in, like, have this community. Because I think if Jason and I hadn't met, who would have known? Like, it's hard to say what our lives would have looked like, but we met, there was a partnership formed, and now we were able to create these, you know, amazing results, because I have someone that like, I have a pretty good mindset, but you know, you get those days where you're like, I don't know. And you got someone hanging like, hey, can't think like that. Like, let's go. Right. And having that partner or that community that we've built now, because we do have a community of dog trainers that, you know, it's like if they're having a rough day or they have a question, like they can comfortably ask and get an answer and not feel like, oh, like, I don't know if that answer is accurate, or maybe they have like ulterior motives. Like, it's, I don't know.
And that's just not people that work for us either. That's other dog trainers.
Yeah.
So,
that we're like, go be successful. Right. So that's the thing with Mike, that to answer that question, that is why we like Mike. And also, like I said, it aligns with what our goals are, is to provide that for other dog trainers as well.
And then his thing, when he says, find good people, treat them like family, and help them succeed, that's like, he's proven that, but it aligns exactly what we think, right? We want to find good people, right? We want to treat them like family and show them the way, right? And help them become better than where we are.
Well, you met one of your biggest advocates here. I love you as people, because like, how cool is it? You know, it's the power of belief in yourself that blows my mind away. Like, and that's why I'm so passionate about storytelling. It's like, dude, there's some incredible people that have gone through hard times, do incredible things, and you're never done. You're only done when you quit.
Yep. Exactly. I know I think of that quote there where it's like a winning mindset doesn't come necessarily from like talent or, you know, just like being better, but it comes from having like that discipline or, you know, organization. And ultimately, I think it's having that like deep belief in yourself that like, I am worthy and I deserve this and I will achieve that. Like, I know a lot of people talk about it, but you have to have that deep internal belief that like, no, this is for me, and I have achieved, like, kind of like Mike said yesterday, but you know, I've already achieved this, right?
Yeah. You'll never out earn more than you think you're worth.
Yeah.
Right.
So you got to have that in check.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because, I guess I've learned over time, if I don't know my worth and my value, how can I ever help someone else understand that?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's, like I said, the dog trainers that are out there charging like pennies. It's like, no, like the information you have is worth charging more.
Right.
Charge more. And ultimately, they're going to be happy with the result if you're doing a good job. And you're going to be happy because you're providing for your family and you're not stressing out. So like, that's like, you need to know your worth and what you're providing. And if you don't know that, then that's some work you gotta do. But
well, if you don't know your worth, then the only thing you're left with is commoditizing your services, and good luck with that strategy, because it won't work out in the long run. I want to finish out with Jason. Let's talk about your passion for dogs. Like what was it, as you made this decision to go down this path, what was it that saved you about, with your PTSD and dogs and that relationship and going back to your childhood? What was it that put everything all together for you?
Well, I think sometimes I feel like I probably wouldn't be around if I didn't have, my dogs. Because there was one dog that I had. She recently, I don't think it was like 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years.
I had to put her down 2 years ago because she had bone cancer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but she was like, man, like she was there. Of course, dogs are there. Like she wasn't a service dog or anything. But my mind, I was able to focus my mind and my energy on training her and just being with her. Right. So,
because they need to eat, they need to drink. Like, so when you're having those down days, well, the dog still needs to survive. So you still need to get out of bed and you still need to go let the dog out. Right. Like that, I think, is a huge help for people with PTSD, for just like helping them get back into some motion. Right. And something is relying on you. So you gotta, do some stuff.
And not only that, like I said, it takes your mind off of that tornado that's going on in there. Right. And you have to focus on the well-being of the dog. Right. And you actually have to keep your emotions in check when you're doing that, because you can't train a dog when you're angry.
They can feel your energy.
They can feel it. Yeah. And you can't, it's hard because you have to manage it, because you can't take it out on them either, because they don't know. Right. So a lot of times the PTSD, you're very short fused or whatever. But if you, like, I had my dog, she was there, I knew that it's not her fault, it's my fault. Right. So you have to keep yourself in check that way too. So,
but with having the dogs, it just help center you. Yeah. Yeah. And you just have to pay a different level of focus, right?
Exactly. And then something to cuddle too.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, their dogs are so intuitive with their energy. And I don't know what it is, but they just know when you need to cuddle. And, I'm such a dog fanatic. I don't even need to ask you guys, dogs or cats, because I already know, right?
Yeah. Definitely dogs.
Definitely dogs. But one of my sons likes cats more than dogs.
I mean, that's
but he's only 6.
Yeah, he'll
outgrow that.
I enjoyed so much getting to know both of you. Did you have fun?
Yeah, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Jinx. See, we're like one person now.
I love it. What was the best part of this experience for both of you?
I think the ability to just be able to tell our story and, just have that platform to say it out loud and, have that like back and forth. Like it was just like a conversation. It was super easy, super smooth.
And for me, it was when, I was telling my story and you were there, you were like with me, like you weren't, and interrupting or anything. You let me get it all out in one go, which was good. Yeah. I mean, it took a lot of time. Sorry.
I think when you're sharing, like, I think everyone's going to have such an easy time connecting with both of you and seeing how your heart and mind are aligned, and then with each other. And then who do you want to thank before we wrap up? Like, who do you want to thank? Who are people that brighten up your day besides each other?
Yeah, besides,
because that was smooth. He's like, I just want to say I love her and she's the best thing ever. Just got that out of the way right now.
Right away. For me,
but you can say it again if you want.
For me, I will.
No,
I will. for me, I want to say I just thank everybody that's ever been in my life, whether it's been a good experience or bad experience. There we go. Because they've guided me to where I am. Right. So, yeah.
I love your grateful heart, by the way.
I know. He is like this guy is like the absolutely most compassionate person I've ever met. Like I'm blunt. I'm compassionate. I like people. I'm a little blunt.
You're blunt?
I'm a little bit, right?
You are?
I know. Just a
Really?
little
That
bit.
was sarcasm right there.
No,
Yes,
know.
you are blunt.
Yes. I don't realize it till people call me out on it.
I actually think it's great.
Yeah.
It's you.
It's authentic. It is what it is. But like, that is one thing that I like, if I could take from him, I would. That is a trait, because like, I've never met somebody that like cares so much about people, like truly like can just meet someone off the street and just like care. And sometimes it does him a disservice, which is okay. It's all learning, but like he is just so compassionate about people, which I think is why he's going to succeed in this. I mean, together obviously, but why? Because he truly like wants to see people successful. There's no other thing. Like sometimes I'm like, you're just like too caring. That's okay. It's okay to have like some boundaries. It's like, no, but that's one thing I really like about him. Love about him.
That's amazing. And you know what? I'm honored that you're on here, because I think 2 to 3 years, when you guys move to San Diego, we're going to manifest that.
Yeah.
You'll be on, like, there's no doubt that this is going to explode. Well, you'll be on sooner, but I'm saying that's when you get to, I would say 2 to 3 years of getting to your ultimate goal, where you're setting the bar for what's happening in your industry, because you're about change.
Yes.
Like, let's do this differently. There's better ways that we can advocate for dogs and help people. And that's ultimately at the end of the day. And, how cool is it to be able to have this moment in time where you're like, hey, remember like 2-3 years when we sat down and we're launching this thing, and now it's like social proof that you can freaking do everything. And that's what I love about branding and marketing. Like if you're open-minded, which I'm really impressed with, because you guys flew all the way over here from Canada. Holy smokes, like you're living it and you take it seriously. Such a cool story. Wait until we revisit this. And
I can't wait.
We're going to do sooner than that, but
I just mean moving. Because we got to move down here soon. We got to get out of the snow.
Oh, really?
So we got to. It needs to be less than 2 to 3 years for sure.
I say you get a regular trip. I'm sure Mike will be glad to have you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to put all of the information. I know you're going to blow up in San Diego, because we love dogs in San Diego. So if you're a trainer, I'd look up their program. Thank you so much for joining us. We're all out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.